This was a pretty great week of chapters, and for me, it was very funny. Next week, Jump is off, so no chapters, but this week left a lot of the series in a good spot. With that, here's the spoiler warning, and we're starting off with One Piece, chapter 1011. This was a great chapter as we move away from the roof fight and back to the interior fights. Luffy is left to fight Kaido one-on-one, just like he did with the Rob Lucci fight, and it would seem as they are relatively even at the moment. So that's put on the back burner, as we see that I was spot on last week with Big Mom making a new Zeus-like homie, whose name is Hera. So now the question is, what happens to Zeus? That seems to have a lot of different ways it could end, especially with how the chapter ends. So now we see Kid and Killer get hit by Hera and blasted back into the skull, but they seem pretty okay as they get back up to go after Big Mom. Hawkins shows up to get in their way, but Killer decides to stay behind to fight him. Kid agrees, and it seems yet another matchup was made. Killer versus Hawkins. We then see Usopp and Nami are still battling Page 1 and Ulti, though she seems to be a bit further behind them. Tama admits to being scared and not knowing how much longer she can handle all the fighting, as she wants to be useful in some way before she can't. Nami and Usopp reassure her that they will protect her. Usopp then gets Page 1 off of the dog they're riding. We also learn that Tama's dongos don't work on real Zoan type users, which is an important reveal, as now we know the limits of her power, meaning that only Smile Fruit users will switch sides, so no big names will be affected by Tama except for Big Mom. As we see her looking for Kid, she sees Tama and remembers their mini adventure earlier on. Big Mom thanks her for what the town did for her, but Tama reveals Kaido's crew destroyed the town, believing they stole their food. Big Mom is not happy about this, and as Page 1 catches up to them, he asks her for help only to have Big Mom punch him with Conqueror's Haki. Now I'm assuming that all the Topiropo, Calamities, and Kaido are awakened Zoan users. So with that Big Mom punch, I wonder if it'll actually keep him down for the count or not. They also mentioned that he was tougher than any other Zoans just by being a dinosaur, so whatever. I don't think he's out for the count, is my point. But with Big Mom's betrayal, now it seems she'll be versing everyone except for Tama and by extension Nami and Usopp. Maybe. So with that ending, I don't know exactly what will happen to Zeus. I'm going to assume that Big Mom is done with him, and he goes back to Nami. Also, I see the fight ending up in the big arena where King, Queen, Marco, Chopper, Drake, and Sparrow are, meaning that fight ends up having all those I just said, plus Kid, Big Mom, Ulti, who was stunned seeing what happened to Page 1, who I think will get up, Nami, and Usopp, and Tama with her potential army. So things may get crazy there. Also, Law brought himself and Zoro down inside, so they may end up in the big melee as well. Mostly Law, as I think Zoro is probably going to heal for the moment with Chopper. So overall, I'd give that chapter an A. It was great in my opinion. Leaving the roof fight knowing that it was just a one-on-one was good, and seeing how things are now changing in the interior fights with Big Mom's betrayal was also good in my opinion. The next chapter should continue showing how the rest of the fights are going, as well as us finding out how Big Mom factors into a lot of the fights going forward. Also, with the Big Mom betrayal here, she continues to remind me of the bad version of Luffy. Like, if Luffy didn't meet Shanks and have sort of quote-unquote good people to influence him, because Big Mom's pretty much the same, just with godlike power right from the get-go, in my opinion. That's why this betrayal isn't all that out of character for her, because it reminds me of something Luffy would do. Now we're on to Black Clover, chapter 291. This was a very good chapter, as we see Asta and Noct 1 defeating the Fusion Devil. We also find out that Asta has to wait a half an hour before he can use Union again. Noct seems worried if the others can survive that long. We cut to Jack versus Dante, which isn't going so well, as Jack can't cut fast enough to counter his regeneration ability. Dante taunts him as per usual, but a fireball hits Dante, and we see Magna and Zora. Dante grows annoyed, having his fun interrupted, especially by those who are completely beneath him. We then see that Magna and Zora were actually the Black Bull's HQ when Dante attacked, but they couldn't do anything and just sat there and watched, much to their own pain. They hint that Magna was working on a new spell, and we see that spell in action as he hits Dante with another fireball. Dante was unfazed by it, only to find that a chain was connected to his chest and Magna's, and that he lost half his magic. Magna got the other half, because he's connected to the chain, and punch Dante with fire knuckles. That actually hurt Dante. The spell is called Soul Chain Deathmatch, which is a pretty good name, and the spell itself is fitting for Magna, as he's always lacking in mana, but always ready to battle. It's sort of his way of staying in the fight. So the spell was a cool twist, quote unquote, as I didn't see it coming, but I'm glad it does because it adds some new wildcard elements into the fights. Like with the Elf group and the rest of the Black Bulls, wherever they decide to help will be a lot stronger, and the Dark Triad may be in trouble. So overall, I'd give that chapter a B. It was good seeing some of what Magna and Zora were up to while everything was going on, and what the time limit was for Asta's cooldown. So it gives us some semblance of how the battle could continue, like where they go next. Will Asta and Noct go help in a Dark Triad fight, or will they go after the evil scientist guy to stop the tree from growing? Or will the tree grow more, unleashing something even worse than the last Devils? Next chapter should be pretty fun. Now we're on to Mashle, Magic and Muscles, chapter 60. This was a fun chapter, as round 3 began between Mash and Marguerite. Marguerite seemingly showed his final form, which was that of a younger, smaller version of himself with long hair. Mash laughed initially, but Marguerite showed what his true magic was, and that is that if he makes a sound, he can travel on that sound, effectively meaning that he can travel at the speed of sound, which at first is too much for Mash to handle, leading to Marguerite taking the advantage. As he hits Mash, Mash adapts and is eventually able to counter his speed, leading to Mash landing a clothesline on him, much to Marguerite's distress. Also, some secretary guy, maybe security guy, gets a message that the main villains are coming from Innocent Zero, if I'm not wrong on that name. The secretary guy at first isn't all that worried, but the messenger guy tells him that the head of the villains is also with them. The secretary guy ends up being a bit more concerned after hearing that. So overall, I'd give that chapter a B. It was good seeing the continuation of the Mash versus Marguerite fight, though I don't think it's done yet. Marguerite's probably got a few more tricks up his sleeve, but Mash definitely hurt him with his last attack, so we'll see how Marguerite handled that. Also, the main villains coming makes their match a bit more tense, because you never know when they'll arrive to ruin the fun. So now we're on to Undead Unluck, chapter 61. A good chapter as we continue the fight between Andy and Fang. We learn a bit more about how truly strong Fang is, and more about how Andy's powers work, such as that he can't heal if it isn't life-threatening, as Fang dislocated his shoulders and Andy couldn't heal them. Andy's plan for the fight was to try to find out what Fang's power was, only to find out that Fang wasn't using any. As they fought, he was just that strong. After taking 2 big hits from Fang, Fang taunts Andy and plans on killing Fuko to make Andy stronger, just like what he plans to do with Shen. Andy is unfazed, however, and tells Fang that as long as he's strong enough to protect Fuko and her goals, he's good. Fang had punched a hole through Andy's chest, so Andy healed around Fang's arm, trapping it inside his chest. He then had it that Fuko's unluck was Shen showing up and landing a big hit on Fang through Andy. So now with all the players in place, I wonder if the fight continues, or if Fang retreats to gain a better advantage later. Overall, I'd give that chapter a B. It was good seeing Fang's power as well as Andy's struggle in a different way than usual. Also, learning more about Andy's powers was cool, and the fighting should continue to be fun with Fang around. Now we're on to Sakamoto Days, chapter 21. This was a good chapter, with the Save Low arc starting off with some fun antics, such as Sakamoto and Shin wearing dinosaur heads as disguises, which was very funny as everyone in the background was weirded out by them. We also see who I'm assuming is the leader of the science group, and is somewhat implied to be the guy killing the assassins, who is obsessed with X's. He has a menacing aura as he threatens the guy who can turn invisible, telling him that if he doesn't bring Shen back to the science group, he'll die. So we have an interesting villain for this arc. We also see the top 2 assassins. I don't remember their names, but them being there to find the guy hunting down assassins is bound to shake things up. The last thing of the chapter was Sakamoto and Shin having to fight off a few robot bears that were guarding the elevator to the basement. As they finished them off, a skeleton T-Rex arrived to stop them. So now we're getting Sakamoto versus a skeleton T-Rex, and it's amazing. So overall, I'll give that chapter a B. It was good seeing the beginning of a new arc and even seeing the potential main villain. We'll have to see how it goes but so far this arc already seems pretty great. So now we're on to I Tell C, chapter 13. It was a fun chapter, seeing how ridiculous everyone is, especially Mare, because she's just silly as a villain, doing a catwalk strut to leave the room, claiming that even her exits are beautiful, and having the bomb in the last chapter be some sort of beauty thing. I'm not sure, but it surprised everyone. So Mare leaves, and we see that everyone who sees her thinks she's beautiful and is enamored with her. Kamaki, Sekon's friend from the last chapter, doesn't seem to care until she sees that Sekon was seemingly going after her. He then explains who she is, and they all follow her outside, where we see that she's trying to get away in a truck. As she does, she taunts them. They end up confiscating a car to go after her. There was a very funny moment when Sekon asks Riza if she had a driver's license. She replies saying no, more or less, she just doesn't say it, and she lists off all the things she's driven while chasing after someone, from bullet train to a bus and everything in between pretty much, which doesn't reassure Sekon at all, nor Kamaki in the back seat. Well, Sekon covers it up from Kamaki. So they go after Mare and catch up. Sekon jumps into the truck to try to arrest her, but she is too skillful for him, avoiding him easily, even standing on the ceiling somehow of the truck. But Kamaki ends up shooting at the tires when it seemed Mare would get away. However, as the truck stopped and they go to arrest her, she's gone. Riza's okay with it, so she can try to arrest Mare her way, but they now have to wait for her next heist. So Riza suggests going to someone who's helped her before. They go, and it's seemingly some criminal place, and the guy they're asking is some sort of criminal. So that'll be fun, as Sekon tries to not freak out. Overall, I'd give that chapter a B. It was good seeing all the chemistry between all the characters continue to grow stronger, as Mare is a fun villain to have in this story. Someone that's a bit more lighthearted in her crimes, but very elusive. It should help the team get stronger with very little danger to them, at least for the moment. So that's all the chapters. Overall, I found this week to be great, as every series was really entertaining and all the chapters were at the very least fun. So for standouts, I would probably be One Piece and Black Clover. Black Clover's ending with Magna was really great and pushed it over the edge for me, and One Piece was just great as usual for me. Again, seeing the betrayal of Big Mom, I thought was a pretty fun and interesting moment. So with that, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like, and as always, thank you for watching.